I can see the title now.
How's-
Ed Talks. Hey? Ed, everybody always asks, how hard is it to be good? What is the route to being good? Everyone who starts automatically thinks they're going to be a world champion in a week. What is the actual route to success?
I think that's going to be different for varying peoples. I think there's going to be a good way of looking at it and say this is going to be a track that you should follow. It always seems to start with people shooting club shoots, and that's fine. That's a great way of getting people into the sport, doing a little bit of practice, shooting little 50 birders, 30 birders, that kind of thing. That can get you to a level of sort of safety and competence, which is good. After that, when you've done your club shooting and you've got used to the idea of a competition and you're having it scored and so on, and the general setup of it, the next step is going to be joining something like the Cpsa, which is going to be a good start to get you into doing what they call registered shoots.
Is there an alternative to the Cpsa?
From a competition shooting perspective, not really.
Okay.
No, you've got various other people like Basque and the like who will do you for insurance, but just from a competitive standpoint, really you need to be a member of the Cpsa. You don't have to compete, but doing things like the registered courses, it's going to give you an average, it will give you a classification, and it's also going to expose you to some different grounds, different toughness of targets, which generally speaking, and it's not always going to be the same, will be a level or two up from your average club shoots, which is fine. So it sort of settles people down to a sort of an accepted level of where they are, because you can compare yourself to more peers. When you do your club shoots, it's quite easy to think that you've got the job nailed down, and then you go into essentially a bigger pool of people with tougher targets, relatively speaking, and it sort of makes you realise where you sit in the overall scheme of things, which is great.
It's quite tough, I presume, mentally on a lot of people.
I think your first few registered shoots are always difficult because there's lots of new stuff there, there's lots of variables. It's a new situation, it's a new ground, it's different targets, there's an element of pressure that you'll put on yourself, not through anybody else, but it happens. Generally speaking, your first few registered shoots, you will shoot what you perceive to be much poorer than you actually are, but in reality, it's a fair assumption that your 3 registered shoots you do will put you in a spot, an average of, if it gives you 60% over 3 shoots, that's probably where you are, and then it gives you something to build on, so you can start recognising certain targets cause you problems, certain scenarios or grounds cause you problems. Whether you've got 3 or 4 guys that you're always round and about, you can use those as a bit of a gauge, so you can start comparing yourself to your peers, and it starts you off on your competitive journey, trying to go through the classes, starting off inevitably in C or B class, and then working up every 6 months, trying to improve your average, shooting more grounds, hopefully shooting tougher grounds as well to get a true average. And then it opens up to county teams, England teams, and world's your oyster.
Is that just experience? Let's probably start at the beginning. Lessons wise to start, you'd recommend that people start with lessons, or do you reckon they just go and have some fun?
It depends. I think it depends what your objective is, really. If you're just going out to have a blast with your mate on a Sunday and enjoy yourself, you can probably pick up enough from local guys at the club and your buddies that you're shooting with, missing and finding the space, especially if you shoot the same club and the same targets week in, week out. You will learn by process of elimination where to shoot on them, and that's fine. And if that's what you're happy doing, every week or every 2 weeks I'm going to come out with my buddies, pull the trigger 100 times, hit a few, hopefully hit a few more than last time, and go to the pub and do nothing after that. Absolutely cool. In which case I'd say just go at it, find your feet. If you've got a view further down the line to look at getting competitive or start considering county teams, that will be the stage where I'd start thinking, right, well, if you're in it for the long term, maybe start looking at getting some degree of professional help, even if it's just someone who you know's decent to look at you and say, right, these are some of the things I would keep an eye on. Don't get bullied into someone trying to change stuff for the sake of it. So I'm a big fan of working with what works and then changing the bits that don't look great. Everyone's got their own different take on it, and that's absolutely fine. But bearing in mind, further down the line, problems are harder to erase when they've been drilled in. So if you're
is
drilling
there
in the
any
wrong
point that you found someone who was unfixable because they'd learnt so badly?
No, I genuinely don't think anyone's unfixable, but it's going to be a case of time and practice. And sometimes, for example, if someone comes up to you and they've got an issue with a specific target or a general way of shooting, you can say to them, look, this is the problem, whatever it may be, but because you've shot for so long and you've done so much, to change this and completely rewire you is going to take a fair amount of time. There's no point bullshitting people. You've got to be honest with them, so this is not going to be a weekend fix. Some people, say, you know what, the overall gain to me is not worth the investment, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes that's where you can say, look, if you just want a quick workaround to it, we can do this, but understand that you're going on to something you're going to talk about later on, eye dominance issues. Depending on the level that certain people want to get to, you can just say, you know what, for that target, it's one bird, it's one presentation, just close an eye. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. It's not going to stop you hitting.
So you can hack your way into certain hits.
Exactly. There's ways around it. There's the perfect way or the ideal way, but depending on the person you're dealing with in the situation, that might not be the way they want to take it. You might say, right, it's going to take 6 months, 8 months, a year to get this problem drilled out and replaced with something that feels natural and works. And some people might just go, you know what, I'm happy shooting okay, doing it a bit of a weird way, in which case, in that case, if you don't want to make a big change, there's a couple of little recommendations we can make which can tweak what you're doing, but it's not going to be the ultimate sort of goal of perfection. That's fine. You know, if someone says, I want to be in 15 years shooting the Olympics or shooting on the world stage and being world class, then you might say, okay, well, let's play the long game. Yeah. Let's deal with this now.
A year's worth of hard work will pay off.
Exactly. It all depends on what the person wants to achieve, and that's part of your job as a coach is understanding what they want to get out of it, because there's no point having somebody come who's doing a corporate level instruction and going, right, okay, well, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're doing that. They're here for 15 minutes and you want to get them shooting incomer safely. Just do enough. Yeah. Whereas if someone says to you, I'm in B class at the moment and in the next 5 years I would like to work into Cpsa and have a good shot at getting in the England teams, your approach to somebody with that outlook is going to be rather different.
And now you reckon that's a 5-year transition between a B class and an England teamer? That fair? Could you do it quicker?
Yeah, absolutely you can do it quicker. I mean, there's people that I've been working with that have made mental progress over a very, very short period of time. Part of that's going to be down to natural ability, time that they can dedicate to it, the way they learn, keenness to get out and do it. Some people it's much longer. Again, I don't think you can put how long does it take to go from C to B to A to AA to Triple-A. It's completely down to the person, and it's down to what they've got available to them time and finances wise.
Stuff along this, but people like to buy stuff along this journey.
Don't they just?
What is your list of priorities in terms of stuff? Someone starts out, at what point should you be buying X and Y and Z stuff, apart from whole cartridge, which you should be buying from the start?
Naturally. The safety stuff is paramount. You can't not be shooting in a decent pair of glasses. You can't not be shooting without ear defenders of whatever sort or another. A gun that near enough fits you, and again, to start with, a lot of people put a huge amount of weight on gun fit, whereas if they're starting off, the biggest variable is them. They're not mounting the gun consistently for several months. Get something that's close, and especially if you're an unusual shape, you're an outside of the box size, you're a tall guy, you're going to have longer limbs, high cheekbones, all that kind of stuff. You will need something doing to almost any gun off the shelf. That's fine. Most people, it's going to be an electrical tape and bog roll job and a couple of washers at best. Yeah. Get that sorted, get it close, and then shoot it for 6, 8, 10 months. Then get reassessed. So, okay, do I need to now look at getting something a little bit more permanent done? That's fine. So for me, glasses, ear defenders, gun that nearly fits, and some shells that don't bang you around. The worst thing to start off with is people shooting over souped up shells thinking it's going to make the difference for them. It's not, but it's going to knock you around a bit and it's going to take your enjoyment away from the job.
And now a quick word from our sponsor, who is us. So if you want to support us and you can be part of our sponsorship program, you can become a channel member. There's a button down there that says join, click it, there's a link in the description, and you can support our channel. You get loads of free content, you get members exclusive videos. It's great, and you get to support us in the work we do, which I hope you enjoy, which is why you're watching. Anyway, let's carry on.
Probably change your technique in that development stage a little bit.
It's certainly not going to sort of help you. So if it's not going to help you, don't do it.
Sounds easy.
Fine.
You don't put a lot of emphasis on gear then? Interestingly.
Listen, it's nice to have nice stuff, don't get me wrong, and it's the difference between want and need. You don't need a highly engraved, beautiful looking gun. It's nice. It's nice to have one. Yeah. You don't need a super high spec shell for 99% of what people shoot. It's nice to have it.
It's amazing the confidence it can give you once you've tried them, though.
100%.
And that's important.
And further down the line, your degree of confidence in what you're doing is going to rub off on your sort of mental approach and your confidence going into understanding what you're doing. You can't put a price on that. And if you're at the stage where 1 or 2% can make the difference, your confidence in your kit is going to be a big factor.
for an extra, I don't know, 4 to 6 pence a shell, it's probably worth the extra investment.
When you start looking at the overall cost of things, in reality, if you're going to get competitive, the cartridges are quite a small part of it. There's a lot more and a lot scarier costs involved than buying your shells. So yeah, if it means the difference between a £200 1,000 shell and a £240 1,000 shell, yeah, that's not.
It's not a lot.
That's not.
You're not shooting 1,000 a day, right?
Exactly.
Probably shooting a gun that costs 3, 4, 5, 6 grand that you probably didn't need in the first place.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, it's just getting the balance of the job right and realising that it's not always about the kit that you're using for sure. Yeah, good quality lenses from a safety perspective are really important. Everyone's going to have their own view on what the best glasses are, what the best colours are. Colour-wise, as Ed will tell you, it's completely personal. So try a few, see what works for you. Just make sure they're impact resistant. You've only got one pair of eyes, so it'd be a shame to lose them.
That would, especially beautiful eyes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that wasn't a compliment. So finally, take me for example.
Yep.
Say I wanted to say I'd like to have a shot at the world title.
Mm-hmm.
What would I do next as a enthusiastic amateur?
I'd say spend some time with someone. Do a bit of research on a person that you want to work with from a coaching perspective. There's lots of people out there. Stop it.
Yeah.
There's lots of people out there which will have lots of different takes on what you should and shouldn't do. Some of them will be right for you, some of them will be wrong, some of them will be on a personal level. You've just got to choose someone that you're right. I'm happy with you as a person. I'm happy with your methodology. If you're looking, for example, to genuinely get to world-class level, my view would be you don't necessarily have to have a coach who's been a world champion, but you do need to look for a coach who's coached world champions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, me going out and shooting 100 straight, firstly, is very unlikely, but it doesn't prove anything from a coaching perspective.
Yeah.
It's much more important to be able to go, oh, my customer's just done this and my students have just done that. You can then start to say, okay, well, there's some legitimacy to what this guy's saying because it's actually had proven results. So that's not from a shooter's perspective. And there's lots of instances where you'll find people who are phenomenal shots and can't coach.
Yep.
There's not many instances of people who are phenomenal coaches that can't shoot, as in, I'm not saying to a world
but there'll
level,
be an AAA
you'll be able to look at them and go, this guy clearly knows the safe end from the dangerous end. You know, you sometimes watch people pick up a gun and just go, okay, no, what's happening here? You won't find that.
Yeah.
So find someone that works for you, and then see them and basically have an assessment. You know, first time I work with somebody, spend a bit of time talking to them, what they want, what they've done, what they would like to do, what they're doing at the moment, their perception of their problems, then go out and watch them shoot before you start making any changes, see what they're doing, see what I think, whether it's my perception of their problems and their perception of their problems might be different. And then you start basically building a lesson plan and say, okay, this is where we're going to start off. This is the first step in the process. We're going to work towards a series of small goals. So if you're in C class at the moment, the first thing would be, let's get you in B.
Yeah.
What's going to be the quickest way to B? Let's look at the low-hanging fruit. What are the worst things about your shooting? Are there a couple of things where we can just look at and go, right, we definitely need, before we do anything, to address this and this.
These basic principles.
And then you're sort of filing it down to a point.
Yep.
So you just, every time you're trying to chip away and get a little bit closer to the finished article. Sometimes you've got to explain to people they're going to have to go backwards before they can go forwards. So when you're making a sort of a distinct change to somebody's technique, you will find that sometimes you've got to go, look, this element of your shooting is a big problem. This is going to take some time and effort to get round this. You're probably going to find at the 3-month stage where we started here, you might be here, but the ultimate goal is going to be in another 3 months or 6 months. The ceiling will now be higher.
Yes,
if you just try and
doing your way you'll cap out at 80, doing it my way you'll cap out at 99.
Exactly, it's finding where the ceiling point's going to be. And if someone's goal is to get to England team or world class level, then obviously you want to try and make the ceiling as high as possible. If there's something that's obviously holding them back, that you can see, right, it's not a problem now, but this is going to be a problem. Take the hit early.
As you said, there's no short fixes to being at the higher level. Your 6-month plan comes into play.
And that's where if someone comes in and says, there's one lad at the moment who is talking about wanting to be sort of world class, and he's not been doing it very long, and I genuinely think he can be, because he's very keen, he's got good hand-to-eye coordination, he's not short on time and funds, and he's someone where when I'm working with him now, it's brutal, because all right, he's only been doing it a couple of years. Like, all right, you want to be at the level that you say you are, or that you would like to be, and I've got absolutely no doubt that he does. Incidentally, I believe him when he says it. The approach that I'm going to take with him is going to be rather different from someone who says, I'm in C class and I'd like to get to A class in the next year or two.
Yeah.
that's a different.
I'm short of time, short of funds, and short of mental ability.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to work with the person, what they've got available to them, and also what they want to achieve, because everyone's coming from a different point. Everybody's got different expectations. Everybody's got different time allocations they can put towards it and funds. That's your job to try and work something between you that can work for everybody.
So what you're saying is everyone's different.
Yeah,
that's pretty simple.
Yeah,
isn't it?
we could have made that a lot shorter and a lot easier. Couldn't it? Everybody's different.
Yeah. How important is chemistry in the instructor to student relationship in your head?
I think it's very important. I think it'd be probably from you. You would know more than I, because I'm always looking at it from the same angle, in that I'm talking to and I'm working with people, and I'm very fortunate now that I'm working with the same people all the time. So I've weeded out people that I don't get on with or don't get on with me, and they're people that for one reason or other the relationship works. You would be better placed to be able to say to me, how important is it, because you're now going to be on the end of receiving instruction. I think it's really important, because at the end of the day, if you're not relaxed with somebody, number one, you're not going to be at your best. If you don't believe what the instructor is telling you works, you can sometimes find it hard to commit to doing something different, because you're thinking, I'd rather do it my way.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Sometimes you get that, and it's then your job to explain to somebody why their way isn't the way forward. And if you can show them that, you'll always get people that don't get on with certain personality types.
Yeah.
And that's
the
fine.
way the world goes.
That's
round.
why it's important to do your research. And I think at the end of the day, you should be enjoying it. Obviously, when you're taking it really, really seriously from a coaching perspective, it's always going to be fun, but there's also going to be a sort of an undertone of trying to get the job done, of course. But you do not want to be coming into a lesson worried about spending 3 hours with somebody. I can't stick spending 3 hours with this guy. If you are, then you've got the wrong person.
You're paying for it as well.
Yeah, you're paying for it.
At the end of the day,
you're paying for it. You want to enjoy it. They're the two things.
Yeah.
And you want to learn. And I think it's got to be a combination of those three that works. The cost, what you get out of it, and how much enjoyment you get from it. It shouldn't just be a case of everything that guy said was technically great, but I can't stand spending time with him, and I feel uncomfortable with him for whatever reason. You'll get used to that over the afternoon, I'm sure. It's a balance, and this is why I always just say to people, do research. I don't care whether you come and see me, go and see the right person for you. If it's not me, I'd sooner you didn't bother, because it doesn't do any of us any good.
Final thing.
Yep.
One coach to one student, or multiple coaches to one student?
For me, one person, because you will get, as you've seen with Gunfit, if you ask 3 people their opinion on something, you'll get probably 4 different answers.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same with shooting. I think once you've done your research, do your research with a view to, I'm going to be listening to one person.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have consistency of approach, consistency of method. The worst thing is working on something for 2 months, 3 months, and then going and seeing somebody else go, oh, what are you doing that for? That's completely wrong. Oh, that's what I've just been told to practice on.
And then suddenly you feel cheated.
It's just no good. And it might just be that they're approaching the same problem from a different way.
Yeah.
But from a student's perspective, that's still blown your mind, and now you're questioning both people.
So it's a faith and respect thing for your instructor.
I won't work with people who want to go and, if someone says I want to go and see 2 or 3 different people, I said that's great, but one of them won't be me.
Yeah.
That's fine. Everyone's under the sort of the right assumptions then, because I don't want to get involved.
Waste your time.
In that. Yeah, and it doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to be involved. I would sooner be able to give myself 100% focus on what a person's doing.
And know what they're going to be coming back knowing.
Exactly, because there's nothing worse than coming back and going, what are you doing now? Oh, I've been told to do this. Oh, great.
Cool, that doesn't actually mesh with what we had planned for your journey.
Yeah, so that's the way I see it. Things like the peripheral stuff, so visual stuff, I'll always put people onto Ed Lyons, because I completely trust what he does. I think he is undoubtedly not only the best in the country at what he does, but probably the best in the world. That's someone that I'm really comfortable with. I've got a guy that I occasionally put people onto for mental training who I work with, Henry Hopking. Great at what he does, definitely not right for a lot of people. So again, I will filter out for every 10 people that ask me about mental training. I would be amazed if I were putting one of them onto him, because the vast majority of people aren't ready for it. I had someone last week, I think, who was in the shooting mid to high 60s, asked me about, can you put me in touch with your mental guy? I'm like, no, purely because it's just not where
You feel
are
like
at
that's
the moment.
90 plus. So once your technique is down, it's about focusing for the last
Yeah,
10 or whatever.
yeah, that's kind of like the icing on the cake, and this guy didn't have cake.
On that beautiful note, get a cake.
Yeah, I love the cake.
Mate, thank you very much
Pleasure.
again for your wisdom. Let's go pull the trigger.